I mean, the concept of the Suicide Squad in the comics is already crazy ridiculous enough, but I want to know whose bright idea it was to bring that crazy concept over to the even crazier world of anime. Suicide Squad Isekai. So Suicide Squad Isekai is, like I said, an anime of DC Suicide Squad. If you don't know what that is by now, that'd be weird, but I will explain. It's a group of incarcerated villains slash anti-heroes that are put together by Amanda Waller, who works for a government organization called Argus, to pull off a mission under threat of death, because they've had little bombs implanted in the base of their necks. In this iteration, Task Force X, the Suicide Squad, consists of Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Peacemaker, Clayface, and King Shark. And I love the fact that in every single iteration of the Suicide Squad that I've ever seen, the one consistent member is Harley Quinn. I do love that because she's one of my favorite DC characters. So in Suicide Squad Isekai, the group is put together under Amanda Waller like always, but here they're sent to a completely different world, a fantasy world, which I guess is called an Isekai, which this is something I didn't even know until now. Isekai is like a genre of Japanese fiction. It's pretty much Japan's version of Alice in Wonderland, which they actually reference in here. I do appreciate how self-aware this show is. So yeah, the squad is sent to a world like that. It has elves and ogres and warriors and an empire that's fighting a kingdom ruled by a queen. Basically, the squad just finds themselves in the middle of this war that they really have nothing to do with, but they're given a task to do, so they gotta do it, otherwise they're all gonna die because of those bombs in their necks. And now we have our little DC anime. 10 episodes long, it just wrapped on Max and Hulu. I guess the English dubs premiered 1 week after the sub version. Like, they would come out week by week, but the Japanese dub with English subtitles would come out first, and then a week later the dub version would come out simultaneously with the next Japanese episode with English subs, and so it went like that. I'll be honest, I watched the English dub for the most part. At this point, the last episode to come out was the finale, but just the Japanese version. The dub hasn't come out yet, but I wanted to wrap it up. So basically, I watched 9 English episodes and then a Japanese finale. And that's how I did it. And what do I think of the show anyway? I thought it had its good and bad. There were some things that really impressed me. The story was not one of them, but I did admire the show's wit and humor. And characters. Y'all know how much I love Harley Quinn at this point. It's not news. Although I will say, and this is just gonna be out there now, this has got to be the hottest iteration of Harley Quinn I think I've ever seen. That's just my opinion anyway. Wow. But in all seriousness, I thought she was a great Harley Quinn. I know that's a little paradoxical what I just said, since Harley Quinn is never serious. You know what I mean though. Deadshot I thought was pretty cool. He had some great moments. Clayface though, alright. This is the first time I've ever seen a Suicide Squad with Clayface in it, admittedly. But it's like, if the Harley Quinn animated show has taught us anything, is that this is how Clayface is, I guess, just supposed to be. That actor who just demands a stage and sees life like a movie. He's gotta be one of my favorite characters in this whole thing, like under Harley. Because he had some of the funniest moments to me. I'll get to that in a bit, but props to that character. Peacemaker I thought was honestly kind of boring. I mean, he does have that same kind of warped sense of justice that we are used to from John Cena's iteration of Peacemaker, which we all love, right? Like, you can't help but compare this iteration of Peacemaker to John Cena's version and be like, yeah, John Cena's version is just way more charismatic. And then King Shark is pretty much the same character he was in James Gunn's version, just a big dumb kid. I'll tell you what this show did for me though. This is the very first thing that ever made me go, wow, Katana's actually a pretty badass DC character. In this show, she's against the squad, so they fight her a few times. The very first fight scene she's in, she's fighting Harley Quinn. This is an awesome scene, because Katana's like the silent, stoic samurai type, which, you know, is complete opposite of Harley Quinn, so that's just gonna be an awesome clash of ideologies and personalities there. And really, this show really made me go, yeah, like, I want to learn more about that character now. I want to look at, like, some DC comic runs that highlight her, because she's a samurai badass who has a sword that steals the souls of its victims. How is that not just awesome? Like, it's gotten to the point where somewhere down the line, I want to see in James Gunn's DCU a story about Katana. Because honestly, I think that character deserves it. I just think she's really cool. But alright, moving on to the rest of the show now. This show, like you would expect, is absolutely what would happen if DC and anime went splat. I was actually really impressed at how well the show combines those two worlds. Like, the characters of the Suicide Squad, they do feel like those characters. I would know because I've been a DC fan for a very long time. Now, granted, I will admit I'm not as educated when it comes to anime, but this show also feels like an anime show with all the tropes that comes with, for the most part. I mean, it doesn't get X-rated. Boom! I'd say this is a PG-13 show. Plenty of curse words, plenty of violent-ish scenes. It's entertaining. And the characters, they felt like themselves while also feeling very anime, like the anime versions of those characters. Probably because that's what they actually are. I was just really impressed with the blend. These two flavors of entertainment were blended together very well, I thought. And surprisingly enough, this show's actually pretty funny too. There were some moments where I was laughing out loud. And for a lot of that, I have Clayface to thank. Because again, he's just that guy who craves a stage. He always wants to be the center of attention. But also, he makes makes meta jokes. That's the best part. He treats this whole thing like it is a movie or a TV series or something. Like the squad is chilling in a prison cell early on, Clayface is like, the plot's not gonna move forward from here. And I love that shit. And plus he makes movie references, and that, as every cinephile knows, is the magic. Every cinephile out there, and that includes myself, we all love movie references in our entertainment. And I'll just let you know, there was a point where Clayface makes the funniest Terminator 2 reference. I died laughing. I thought it was hilarious. I loved it. That was perfect. And so really, that's the kind of wit and humor that I really like from this show. As for the action scenes, they're decent. I mean, the squad's throwing down. It's nothing you haven't seen before, especially in animation, especially in DC animation. I'll be honest, during some action scenes here, I actually kind of tuned out. I was like, all right, yeah, action scenes going down. The plot's not moving forward. There's no real important dialogue going down. It's just fighting with weird ogre-looking dudes. And yeah, this is kind of where the dynamic of my review is going to shift and change, because here kind of come the negatives. Because while the humor and the characters were good and the action was decent, the animation itself, I didn't really think was anything special. I mean, it was pretty to look at, sure. Some really cool designs in here. There were some dragons later on. Yeah, they look cool. But I guess at this point, Spider-Verse has just broken me. It's like, yeah, I have now seen some gorgeous animation in my life that has made my jaw drop to the floor. So I guess your average run-of-the-mill anime animation is just no longer going to impress me. I feel bad for the artists who worked on this. I mean, they're not going to care about this review. But you know what I'm saying, right? And because I want to give the artists their due credit. The show does look good. Yeah, perspective. It sucks sometimes. And then we come to the story. Yeah, the story is about as cliche as it gets. The show is super predictable. You know where it's gonna end, like from episode 1. There were no real surprises for me throughout this entire season, except for maybe the very, very end. One thing did kind of throw me off guard, but even then I wasn't blown away. I wasn't really surprised. I was like, I guess that makes sense. And that does kind of bum me out. I mean, with a show that does have some things going for it in my book, I don't want to let a really by-the-numbers story slide. I'm gonna ding some points off for that. I mean, it's about a group of anti-heroes slash villains who find themselves in another world amidst a war between good guys and bad guys. How do you think that's gonna go? Yeah, exactly. That's the Suicide Squad. That is kind of the thing about the Suicide Squad, is that I haven't really seen a whole lot of stories that branch outside of what I have seen from the squad, which is they're sent to do a mission under threat of death. They do the mission, they succeed, well, job well done. Back to jail. That's really all I've ever seen. I'd like to see something different from Task Force X. That's just me though, because I just feel the same old routine is getting tired. I'm ready for the new material. Hopefully Creature Commandos will give us that. I don't know. I will say the music in this show is anime music. For me, it really reminded me of, and I know like for those of you who are well versed in anime, you're gonna say, actually it sounds more like this, but for me it more sounded like the Cowboy Bebop soundtrack, you know? That jazz big band kind of style, that da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Except not that. Which, yeah, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's really cool music. It's just, again, it's nothing out of the ordinary, especially for an anime. And don't even get me started on the closing credit sequence. What is that? That's just something I'd rather never see again. I'll leave it at that. But in the end, Suicide Squad Isekai, it levels out to being alright. There are things I really like about it. There are things I thought were lackluster. It does leave it open for a season 2. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I'd say if you're a diehard DC fan, give it a watch. You might like it. If you're an anime fan, I talked to an anime fan once and she was like, yeah, Suicide Squad's not really my thing. If that's the case for you, then you probably won't like this show. She is the one who recommended Chainsaw Man to me though, and I ended up loving that. But Suicide Squad Isekai, I don't see being one of my top 5 TV seasons of the year. Had some neat-ish stuff, but I have seen better from both DC and anime. So there you go. So, Suicide Squad Isekai, have you watched it? What are your thoughts on it? And what is your favorite iteration of the Suicide Squad you've ever seen in any media? Comic, TV show, video game, movie, whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna get back to watching One Punch Man, because I started watching that and it's pretty funny. Peace!